And we are live to HRS Late Nights. I am your host, Tony Cutillo. My man Adam already talking about. My man David checking in. What I'm going to talk about Von Erich. So you already got the wrestling talk. If you don't know, this is HRS Late Nights. I decided to do a late night show. We've been doing this. It's been great. I love the fan interaction. And again, if you want to get live into the discussion, very simple. I posted the link on Facebook. I posted the link on X. I posted the link on Instagram. It's very simple, and on YouTube. It literally, if you want to hop in, all you need is a phone. That's it. This is straight audio. That's it. We're having fun tonight. We got a lot of great topics on tonight. Okay, number one, we're going to talk about NBA Big Three. Right. The reason why I started a lot of this is because I want to be able to talk different topics, right? Different topics that not everybody's talking about. Okay, everybody's talking about the same thing. Can the Eagles still win the Super Bowl? Can this and that? And yes, is it important? I absolutely think. Okay, it is, but sometimes you need a little difference, right? And somebody posted the NBA Big Three tonight. I can't for the life of me remember who it was, but he posted the Big Three of being Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. And it made me think, right? Because I'm a big NBA historian. I love the game of basketball. I love the NBA. And it made me think about who would the NBA Big Three be? But not just right now of different eras, right? So, let's talk about the present day NBA Big Three. Let's talk about the era from like 1990 to 2010, right? The Jordan era, the Kobe era, the Shaq era. Who would be that Big Three? And then talk about the basketball since the inception in 1949, 1950 to 1990, right? You have the 80s Lakers, you got the 70s Celtics, right? You have a lot of great teams. You have to start talking about before the 3-point line. People like, obviously, Will Chamberlain. Philly zone, right? That you start talking about Oscar Robertson and Pete Maravich and so many different names. So I'd love to get into that discussion and hear what you have to say. Hear what you have to say about who are those big three, because it's so important, man. It's so important. RKO is back. I don't say yes. RKO is back. We're going to talk a little WWE as well. Is Randy Orton ready for another title run in the WWE? Are you ready for Randy Orton to be for another title run? We also, my man David checking in says Detroit lost. Oh my God, I didn't even see that. I was busy doing stuff around the house. They lost 28 straight, man. Like, it's unbelievable when you think about. It's not easy. And listen, Adam knows this. David, for the life of me, I don't think you're a Philadelphia guy. If you are, but I'm pretty sure. Are you a New York guy or are you a Philly guy? Let me know, because if you're a Philly guy, you've endured, the Johnny Davis era, right? And that was one of our head coaches. When we had the Spencer Halls and the Keith Van Horns and the Tony Rotens of the world, and we endured these kind of losing streaks, right? So we kind of know that. So, yeah, very, very interesting. It's not easy to lose 28 straight. I can tell you that. You have to work at losing 28 straight. Adam says Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson for his big three, and he brings up Allen Iverson. I like that big three, right? I like that. A lot of speed. Well, here's the thing, Adam. I wonder if there's enough balls to go around for those three guys who are both ball-hungry scorers, right? So you think about that, like, would there be enough to go around for those guys? And people, before we continue, just please give me like the show me you're watching. Again, I appreciate the comments. Make sure you're subscribing to the Heat Ratio Sports YouTube channel. I mean, this is the daily show, but we have so many other good shows coming and planned coming up. Like I said, I have a youth sports podcast that I'm going to be starting. It's going to air once a month, but it's going to be pretty in depth about the dark side of youth sports and bring on my personal experiences of what I've dealt with my family and my children in high school athletics, which has been brutal. And I have a lot of people that want to share their stories as well. And I think some of those stories will make your mind spin. Trust me. So it's just the beginning. And again, I want to get into more of just sports talk, not just today sports, like back in the day, historian sports, right? My man Mike says, or David says, I was born in the Michael Jordan era in 1991. Well, here's the thing, David. I actually graduated 8th grade in 1992. So, but you were born into the first three-peat era of Michael Jordan, right? So, and that's the thing, the first three-peat era of the Chicago Bulls. And you look at that, and again, we just talking about, how hard it is to lose 28 straight games, but how hard is it to make not one, but two, but three championships in a row and then do it 6 out of 7 years? And that's the crazy part about it, right? Do it twice. Do it twice. Like you think about how great, right? And I'm not going to get in this argument between LeBron or Michael because I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. David says he was born in 1991. I was born in 1978, right? So when my basketball watching days were revolutionized by those finals of the Los Angeles Lakers and the Boston Celtics, right? I stayed up late to watch those series with my mom. My dad was working shift work, and I remember it very, very vividly. I remember those teams with the Chief Robert Parrish and Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Danny Ainge and Dennis Johnson, right? I remember the Kurt Rambuses of the world and the AC Greens and the Michael Coopers, Byron Scott, Magic Johnson, Kareem, James Worthy, right? This was, that's when I grew up, and that's when I watched the game, right? So I was brought into that game, and then obviously it translated over into the Michael Jordan era, right? It translated over into the Michael Jordan era, and that era was the bad boy era, right? Because we had the Detroit Pistons, who were the bad boys of the NBA, and I'll tell you what, man, like that team, like think about that. Like we all talk about Draymond Green. Think about a full team of Draymond Greens, right? I mean, when you think about it. And again, I am just spitballing here. Like I don't have a cheat sheet in front of me, so I know I'm not on video because I want to do this like radio, but just for my mind, I might get some of these wrong, but you look at that team of Chuck Daly's team, right? Chuck Daly's Pistons, Bill Lambier, wow, right? Bill Lambier, Dennis Rodman, James Edwards, Vinnie Johnson, Isaiah, John Sally, these guys, Mark Aguirre. I mean, these were tough minded basketball players, man. And then you transition to Michael having to go against not only those Pistons that kept beating him up and made him get stronger and stronger and stronger, but then you go on to the other end, and then you had to go against the New York Knicks with guys like Anthony Mason and Charles Smith and Patrick Ewing, and again, like you're looking at this and going, John Starks, I have to go through the lane, Xavier McDaniel, and get bullied again. And he just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And that's what made Michael Jordan so great, right? That's what made him so great. Now, Adam says old school Will Chamberlain, Bill Russell, and Bill Walton. Now, think about that three-peat. That's why I like talking about NBA Big Threes. And if you're just tuning in, I want to talk NBA a lot tonight. I want to talk NBA Big Threes. And again, NBA Big Three presently, NBA Big Three, say from 1990 to like 2010, and then from the inception of 1949, 1950 up until 1990, right? Those 80s, the 70s, the 60s, right? Before rebounds were calculated, before three-pointers were tallied, right? I think the first three-pointer was what, 1979, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like, when you think about that, Adam says old school Will Chamberlain, Bill Russell, and Bill Walton. And you think about that, you're like, wow, think about that team, right? We all know Bill Walton is this crazy guy, and he's always on the ganja a little bit, right? We know he's hitting the pipe a little bit, but he's living life well. But he was a hell of a basketball player. Bill Russell gets forgotten. He really does, in my opinion, gets forgotten. And then Will Chamberlain, again, I think because, like, I personally never witnessed the dominance of Will Chamberlain, right? If you look at our modern day Will Chamberlain, I mean, could we say, is it far-fetched to say our modern day Will Chamberlain could be Shaquille O'Neal? Meaning, like, who was the most comparable dominant force since Wilt Chamberlain, in my opinion, it's got to be Shaq. It's got to be Shaq. Like, I don't see any other player that at that size was that dominant. Like, there was an era of Shaquille O'Neal where he legitimately was absolutely unstoppable. Like, the nobody except himself could be stopped. Like, nobody could stop him, right? It literally, like, if you remember how dominant he was, I just can't imagine if Wilt Chamberlain was even more dominant than that. And I'm not saying he wasn't. What I'm saying is I didn't see him play. Right. We only see the highlights, and they're not the same highlights that you normally see. But thinking about that, it's just like, wow, really, it takes your breath away, man, thinking about it. Adam also says, I remember Kevin McHale always putting up his hits. I didn't foul anyone. Like, what's crazy about McHale? McHale was just, that basketball player that didn't do a lot. Like, he didn't do a lot anything that was sexy, right? He was just a hard nose in the box turnaround jumper kind of guy. It's like, when you think about the Flying Dutchman, you think about Rick Smits, right? You think about Rick Smits, and Rick Smits was a hell of a big man, right, for the Indiana Pacers, but he wasn't sexy. Right, he didn't do nothing sexy. He just got the job done, right? And that's what McHale did. And McHale had some terrible knees too, man. I mean, those knees were rickety back then. You imagine? I mean, like, he really endured some hellacious pain playing through a lot of those series, and I give him a lot of credit, man. I really do. David says, I was 5 years old. Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls winning their 4th NBA championship. Which, again, it's after the year he comes back. He wears 45, right? Obviously, Jordan, my favorite player of all time. Listen, I know it sounds cliche, but he was. I mean, I was, obviously, when I was a youngster and getting into basketball, I had Charles Barkley in this town, but it wasn't a basketball town, right? It was always a Philadelphia Eagles town, and I was more involved in the Philadelphia Phillies. And the thing about, the Sixers were, that's the time when we traded Charles Barkley. And, because he didn't want to be here and he wanted to win a championship, right, in the 90s. And he goes to Phoenix and we get back. Man, I got to remember this trade. Andrew Lang, Tim Perry, Jeff Hornacek. I think they were the 3 that we got. And maybe I'm forgetting somebody else, but it was obviously highway robbery. I mean, listen, Jeff Hornacek, for what you want to say, man, he was a sharpshooter. I mean, he came and he did what he could do, the best that he could do. Like, he was like a one-man show for this team and for the like, think about that. You went from your best player, being Charles Barkley, to basically Jeff Hornacek, right? You had guys like Hersey Hawkins and Ron Anderson and Johnny Dawkins. But listen, Hornacek was the guy. Hornacek was the guy. And listen, I'll be honest with you, man. He had a hell of a shooting percentage, and he could shoot with the best of them. He was older. That was towards the end of his career too when we picked him up. So, very interesting. It still sucks that Barkley never won with Phoenix. Obviously, I was happy that Michael won because that was the 3-peat year in '93, and Paxson hits the big shot. But Barkley had a hell of a year. Right, he had a hell of a career out there, and that's what's great about it, right? That's what's great about it, and at least he got some kind of victory and got that experience because he did give it his all. Adam says, what old school player would you say Embiid is like? That's interesting because I'll tell you what, Adam, Joel Embiid, for all intents and purposes, is something we may have never see again. I'm going to be honest with you. Right? We talked about Shaq earlier, the dominance. Right? And the best way I can answer this when people ask me this question, because I love the question. I love the question. Again, this is HRS Late Nights. I am Tony Cutillo. This is live right now, audio only. Decide to do something a little different. And again, you want to get involved in the conversation, comment. I'll throw your comments up on the screen like we are right now. We'll go back and forth. If you would like to be live on the line, very simple. All you need is a phone. That's it. Literally, there is a link on Facebook, a link on X, and a link on YouTube. If you click on it, You're going to go in the backstage room. You're going to type your name in on your phone, and I'm going to put you on air. You can ask as many questions as you want. We can have a nice, 2-3 minute conversation. There's no wait times, there's no hold times, no nothing, man. It's just open conversation. So, every night we have some callers, which is great, and I think it's just going to continue to ramp up because again, you could be in your pajamas, you could be on the road, doesn't matter. We're just having a great sports conversation, and Adam, like I've said, he has the touch of a Tim Duncan. I'm my man Jim McGinnis checking in. What's up, Jim? Happy holidays. He says Embiid is like Olajuwon. I agree, and he's got the dominance of Shaq, and he hits 90% of his free throws. Like, think about that. Like, not only is Joel Embiid dominant, right? Like, we just talked earlier about how dominant Shaquille O'Neal was back in the day, and I think people forget about that. But let's think about if Shaq was able to even hit 60% of his free throws, 70% of his free throws, how many points he would have, when they did hack a Shaq, right? You can't do hack a Joel. You can't do hack Joel, right? Because if you hack Joel, guess what? Guess what? He's going to make the shots. And that's what makes him so intriguing, man. So intriguing. Oh, man, look at Malone. First time, long time. My man Fuji checking in. Fuji, what's up, buddy? Happy holidays. Listen, Fuji, happy holidays to you. Listen, man, I think I know you're supposed to text me or call me. I was going through some stuff. I actually have you on my list. I keep saying there's like 3 or 4 people I got to get back to. The holidays has just been crazy with Thanksgiving. I had some things going on family wise. Everything's good, but now I'm finally getting caught up. So Foods, definitely let's get together on a phone call. I'll text you. I have the text, and again, we'll get on the phone and figure out what's going on, man. I want to hear what's been new with my man Fuji. Fuji, again, one of the most passionate people in the world of Philadelphia sports. I can tell you that. Yes, absolutely, Jimmy. Listen, as always, I say this all the time. Whether it's a minute from you guys or 2 minutes or a half hour or 45 minutes, man. Like ever since I've been, no matter what I do, there's a big group of you guys that consistently come in and out and with your comments and your support and listening. And it's been fantastic, man. Been fantastic. And I absolutely appreciate it because sometimes it takes a while to figure out exactly, what you want to do and how you want to do it. Right. And that's what make life so interesting. You go through so many different stages of life and different careers and different paths and it's funny and everything's a learning experience, whether it's negative or positive, right? You learn from everything. If you don't fail, you never learn. I say it all the time, you have to fail in order to learn. And and I'm not saying I failed or I failed at things, absolutely, right? We've all have, right? Nobody's perfect, nobody's been perfect in everything, but the best thing about this is I've always said to myself, and I'm going to be honest with everybody, fully transparent. Everybody knows me. I've never, at one time, my goal was always, man, I want to be on the radio. That was my thing, man. I want to be on the radio. That's what I want to do. I want to hold a radio job. I want to be on WIP. I want to be on a Fanatic. I want to be on the dial. And when I got more into this business, I kind of was like, I don't know if that's what I want to do. Because I thought about all, the rigorous travel and for me, 45 minutes to go to a station and, and pay to park and, get paid peanuts to sit in the studio and yeah, great platform, great people. But, at my point in my life, it just wasn't feasible for me. Right. And I'm a very dominant personality. Let's be honest. Not, and I don't say this because it's me, but not many people could sit here for 2 hours solo and do a show and not stop. And I pride myself on that. I can talk with the best of them. I really can. Not because I'm good, because I enjoy it. It's my passion. I love it. And I've always said, to me, family is number one. No matter what, family is number one. And I never wanted to do something that was going to take me away from my family. And if I would have taken any of those jobs that I had an opportunity to take, I basically would have alienated my family. And again, that's why I give credit to Johnny Marks, man. Johnny Marks did exactly the right thing. He chose family Obviously, there's money involved, right? But at the end of the day, he chose family over career. And that's what I'm doing. Right. I decided, listen, I want to talk sports and I want to talk sports on my time. And when it's very feasible for me to do it. Right now, I have 3 children. They're all snuggled in bed, man. They're comfy, they're home, they're safe. I'm good, man. I'm grounded. I think everything's great. And now I get to talk to a great audience digitally, live, right? With different people from all backgrounds and nationalities and cities and states and fans. And I love it. And this is what I'm going to do. So this is why I'm here Monday to Friday now. This is where you can catch me Monday to Friday, 11 p.m., 1 a.m. Eastern. Call in, comment. I'm going to have an email line pretty soon. I want to get this rolling and going into 2024. You know where you can find me right here on Heat Ratio Sports. And again, last thing I will say is as much support you give me at Heat Ratio Sports, man, if you guys can go to the Blue Coats beat, I'm very proud of the Blue Coats beat. You know, the one thing about the Blue Coats beat that I love is it gets me closer, you know, within the 76ers organization. It gets me to work with great people. And it's something I meet great people as well. And we get to talk so many different, me and Coach Joe are so passionate. So the Blue Coats beat, if you could check it out, to be fantastic. Give us a review. I like it. It's on all the podcast formats. It's on the HRS YouTube page and the Blue Coat, Delaware Blue Coat YouTube page as well. So, but back to where we are. Sorry to get on a tangent there, but that's who I am. That's what I do. David says Chicago Bulls still would have won their fourth without Michael. Yeah, you're right. You're right, man. They definitely could have won that fourth. That's just crazy. You know, that's what you think about. It's so crazy that they could have won. That's how deep that team was, man. That's just crazy. That team, when you watch, you know, when you watch the biographies, when you watch everything documented in that series about the Chicago Bulls, and it's like, wow, you know, even when Michael left and guys like a Tony Kukoc and Scottie Pippen, these guys step up and you know they do phenomenal things. And obviously coaching is a big deal, man. Like that's what shows you like coaching is so important. So important. I mean, yeah, scheme is one thing, talent one thing, but coaching is so important. We talked about this the other night. We talked about underrated NFL coaches, and you know, David, you're right. Cleveland Browns are heading to the playoffs, which is fantastic, man. My man Kevin Stefanski, good job, man. What a fantastic hire by Cleveland, doing things the right way out there, and they have to be commended. They do. They have to be commended for what they've been able to do as a franchise. My man Javon checking in says that's the great thing about the internet, new media. So many ways to reach people and build your own platform. Javon, 100%. Javon, listen, I apologize. Just like you apologize to me, I did read your message. I just, again, I'm backed up with the holidays and everything. I just want to get the proper response. But I appreciate you at least getting back to me, and I appreciate the response. You know, you're one of the people I respect most in this industry. Another guy who doesn't go bad mouthing people and stabbing people in the back and being that jealous, hateful person that a lot of these people are. You're a real one, man, and I love it. And you're building your own thing as well, dude, for real. And that's what's great about this. You know, I don't need to. I'm at the point right now. I don't need to piggyback on somebody else's platform. I just don't need to do that, and I don't feel I need to do that. You know, I'm all in now, man. Like that's what I want to do. You know, obviously I am part of the Win Daily Sports family from a fantasy and a sports betting perspective, and I love that place, and I love those dudes, and I love what I do on Sirius. It's great. I love talking that kind of stuff, but this is my wheelhouse. This is who I am, man. Like I'm a sports historian. I'm a local like I like to talk it all, man. And I'm not saying anybody's wrong, man. Like we all have opinions, and I can't wait to hear them all because I know there's a lot of people that want to talk and have opinions, and I'm here for them all. You know what's so great is I remember I was doing you know, when I started the final judgment. And you know, and again, it's a learning experience, right? I love the final judgment, and I'm still gonna do the final judgment show. You know, I have a lot of big things planned for 2024. I'm gonna be honest with you. I really do. And you know, I look forward to sharing them with everybody. And you know, I thought about it and I was like, you know, doing these post-game shows when I was doing in the World Series, and I met so many awesome Houston Astros fans. It was fantastic, man. Like we were together, right? We were having some really good discussions back and forth, like points of emphasis, and that's why there's only certain people that I like today that are on the mainstream media, that are on the local stations. Like I'll be honest with you, man. I always like guys like Rob Ellis. Rob Ellis to me is one of the real ones. Rob does not fabricate arguments. Rob does not have any bias. Rob is just Rob. Like he's a Delco dude that you'd run into at the bar. Like Rob is that personable kind of guy. I love listening to Rob Ellis. That's why I like Johnny Marks, man. Like I was a Johnny Marks fan. Johnny Marks, he wasn't fabricating anything. Listen, here's the thing. Like he said it. Like I told people before, about what was being said to the hosts at some of those particular radio stations. And I listened to Johnny Marks's exit interview on Cross and Broad with Kevin Kincaid and Kyle Picon. And I listened to it, and he basically, he made my points valid by basically saying the same thing. And that was that these stations, they wanted you to always be opposite of your host. Like you had to create an argument, whether you believed it or not. Like if me, like right now, if me and Foods are talking right now, I say Foods joins the show and he says the Eagles suck, and I think the Eagles suck. I have to say I think they're the best team in the league. If Food says the Eagles going to Super Bowl, even if I think the Eagles are going to Super Bowl, the station's going to want me to say, nope, no way, man. They can't. That's all fake. And Johnny Marks said that. Johnny Marks said that's not who I am. And you know that. And if you listen to Johnny Marks, he was never like that. Like he told like it was. So there's not many people in this town and on mainstream media that are being themselves and being transparent. And that's what I pride myself on, and that's why I love everybody that supports this program and continues to support me going ahead. And speaking of support, we're talking. If you're just getting into the conversation, we're talking NBA Big Three. We're also listen. That doesn't mean that's all we're talking about. If you have a wrestling point, because we're going to get into our wrestling hour later. If you have a baseball point in Major League Baseball, we're going to talk about the Phillies Closer situation, and get an idea on what everybody thinks. And then we're also going to talk about Allen Iverson, man. Number one, his influence on today's present day NBA, but also kind of campaigning to want to do more with the Philadelphia 76ers. And if they should be willing to give him more. So that's going to be interesting too. And just so you know, going forward too, we're going to have some breaks, because listen, I'm going to pay some bills. I have a few sponsors that are all re-signed on. I can't wait to introduce them. And, obviously we'll have some reads here and there, and obviously I need to get a glass of water every now and then because I talk a lot, and 2 hours. Listen, man, I need a couple minutes here or there. I'm not Scott Hansen for, the red zone. So I need a break every now and then too. So Adam says, I love Rob Ellis on Phillies post game homes, driving home from the games. Yeah, Adam, exactly. You love Rob Ellis for the same reason why I love Rob Ellis, because we know who Rob Ellis is. Right. And that's what's great about it. And I think he's doing a fantastic job filling in, for the morning show this week. I usually don't listen to the morning program in this town. I don't. I just number one, it doesn't appeal to me. But at the same time, I think he's doing a great job right now filling in, and it's listenable now. Him and Devin Caney, I love Devin too. She's up and coming. I'm glad to see her keep getting her shot on different areas, because I will tell you, behind the scenes, she's a very personable person, who again is not one of those people that won't give you the time of day. Devin's fantastic. My man David says, give me your top 10. You want me to, David? I'll try. I'll give you my favorite expos, put it this way. But I don't know if I can go 10 greatest expos. And this is going to be in no list, right? I'll give you off the top of my head. I'll give you memorable guys that I gravitated towards in my early baseball watching career. If you tell me Montreal Expos, the first person that comes to my mind, the first person is going to be Dennis Martinez. I know some people would say, "Oh, how can it not be Pedro, young Pedro, or Randy Johnson?" But for me, it's Dennis Martinez. I remember Dennis Martinez vividly, man. He was that you know he wasn't the overly powerful, dominant pitcher, but he was like, remember when Tom Glavine lost about 5 miles an hour on his fastball and he had to start painting the corners and get very, very crafty? Well, that's what Dennis Martinez was, man. Like Dennis Martinez was crafty before crafty was a thing. So I always remember Dennis Martinez. He's the first thing that comes to my mind. My man Food says Andre Dawson, another guy, another great expo that comes to my mind. Listen, I'm always going to remember Tim Raines. Rock Raines is another guy that I'm always going to remember for the Montreal. I'm going to remember Marquise Grissom, Tim Wallach. These are guys that I remember, always being that upper echelon. Obviously, Big Cat, Andres Galarraga, right? How can you leave out Andres Galarraga? Right, Big Cat, again, fantastic career. Larry Walker. Listen, before Larry Walker beefed up in Colorado and was going for that triple crown and MVP, Larry Walker. I mean, Larry Walker had one of the sweetest swings in the game, man. He really did. I'm trying to think of who, and David, maybe you can help me out, but who was the most popular closer for the Montreal Expos? Was it Tim Wetland? Maybe Bobby Thigpen? Trying to think of who the most dominant closer was. For Jeff Reardon, I'm trying to think for Montreal. For some reason, I can't put my finger on it, but I think it was Wetland. I think it was John Wetland. There you go. Food said, Foods. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it was John Wetland, man. Like I remember John Wetland, man. He was dominant. Like, and again, I want to keep saying this because this is the shit I love, man. Like, I love going back and talking old school, man, because it's funny when I did the interview with Sonny Hill a couple weeks ago, and if you didn't listen to that, go listen to it, man, because again, that interview with Sonny Hill, it's on the Blue Coats beat. When me and Coach Joe had him on for almost an hour, he kept saying latest and greatest. And I always remember latest and greatest. He said, we're doing the young people a disservice nowadays by always talking about the latest and greatest and not giving them the history of the game. And I completely agree. And that's why I wanted to start this, because if I went to a program, let's be honest with you, if I went to Ray Station, they're not going to let me do this. They're not going to let me talk like this. They're like, dude, what are you doing? No, we need to talk about the Eagles. We need to talk. It's week 17, man. Like, we need to talk about the Arizona game. Okay, man, we've hit that to death already. Let's start bringing this conversation, from latest to greatest to back in the day a little bit and up to the latest, man, because that's what I want to do. My man Javon checks in and says, there's another one, Vladdy. How do I forget Vladimir Guerrero, right? How do you forget him? And then Moises Alou, right? You're all like, again, man, Felipe Alou, Moises Alou. You always remember Moises Alou, no bat and gloves, that crazy, like, straight up stance. Had a decent career, man. He had a really decent career. So, you got to give Moises Alou some credit. And let's be honest, Moises Alou, he was in a lot of controversy as well, right? I mean, you think about it, he had some controversy. He did, in some of those playoff games that he was in. But I mean, when you think about it, I can't think of, I'm trying to think of any other Montreal Expos that, were on that list that possibly we didn't name that were very, very memorable. I obviously, I love the old school uniforms. That's what, David, that's why I love your logo. I always say, I'm like, I love the logo that you have because it reminds you of that awesome that awesome jersey that they have. Yeah, yep. There. Wow, Steve Bartman. Wow, yeah, that's it. That's the catch, right, Food? That was the catch. Adam says Sonny Hill. Yeah, Sonny Hill still 87 years old, my man, Sonny Hill. Still popping the knowledge, man. 87 years old and still popping the knowledge like it was nothing. You listen to that interview, man, he was just spitting it out. Yo, there we go, Foods. We nailed it. We nailed it. That Mel Rojas. I forgot about Mel Rojas, but we did get John Wetland. There we go. We did get John Wetland. That's what I love. Man, we got some historians on this show, right? Now here you go. Look at it. Javon went to Olympic Stadium 6 years ago in Montreal. And it says it still looks amazing. Olympic Stadium. Wow. Olympic Stadium. Think about that. Wow, look at this. Starters, Ken Hill. I'll tell you what, I couldn't pick Ken Hill out of a lineup. I wouldn't be able to pick him out of a lineup, Ken Hill. Obviously Pedro, right? I mean, we all know that. Pedro's one of my favorite players of all time. I love Pedro. Mike says, Food says Sonny Hill in a livery. Exactly. Talking right off the sofa, man. It's great. My man, Jim Check. Wow. Whoa. Jim McGinnis checking in with Ellis Valentine and Warren Cromartie. Bro, I'm going to be honest with you. I have no idea. I'm going to be fully transparent. I got to Google them. I vaguely remember the name Ellis Valentine. I don't remember Warren Cromartie. I do not remember that name. That's a good one from the Wayback Machine. That's why I love going way back, man. Like, think about it. If somebody, if somebody talked right now, even to our modern day society, right? I'm 45 years old. So if I said to my kids right now who are 16 and 18, my boys, that is, if I said, hey guys, who are the Montreal Expos? They'd say, who are the Montreal Expos? Like, they wouldn't even know who the Montreal Expos are. They wouldn't know that there was a transition team, an expansion team that was the Colorado Rockies, right? They would have no idea that there was no Montreal Expos, or there used to be a Montreal Expos. Like, it's crazy. That's why I love talking about it. Jim says that was from the Hawk era, right? The Andre Dawson era. And when you think about that, you think about the big dog, right? You think about the Hawk, and that was who we were striving to be as early baseball players. Like, that's the thing. Like who's that guy? Let me ask you this before we, because I like, because it's all, I love going all over the place, the conversation. Let me ask this. When you were playing stickball, or you were playing that bounce pitch or fast pitch in the schoolyard, whose stance did you emulate? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, from your era, like, who was the guy when you walked up to the plate? Because come on, man, we all did it. We all were like, oh yeah, I'm going to go out. I'm going to try. For me, I'll be honest with you, it was Eric Davis. Like, I was a big Eric Davis fan, and because his wrists I thought were so quick, so I like I would love to hold the bat down by my side and just rip it. Like, that was my favorite. Like, I was an Eric Davis fan. So I always try to emulate Eric Davis. That was my guy. So I'm curious, for all you people that are listening right now, who was the guy when you were out the yard playing stickball, or you were at the plate? Who was the guy you were trying to emulate with your batting stance? Yeah, Adam, I'm sorry. You know why I said Colorado? I said Colorado because I'm thinking Larry Walker. That was because Larry Walker Expos and obviously goes to the Rockies. So yeah, absolutely. Washington Nationals came in for the Expos. Thank you for that. Yeah, I got sidetracked there with the Larry Walker talk. Food says Larry Parrish at third, Rodney Scott at Larry Parrish at third, Rodney Scott at second, Tim Wallach. I remember Tim Wallach. Like, I definitely remember Tim Wallach, 100%. Ryan Howard, yes. He had that, you know what, Javon? He had that spread out long bat. Man, that was always cool, man. Like, I didn't, when I was watching Ryan Howard, for me, I was an old man, right? So because I was an old man, I wasn't playing stickball anymore. But I would have liked to emulate Ryan Howard. I definitely would have. I would always mess around trying to think I was Julio Franco, but I could never get the bat from like one side of my ear all the way around in time. Like I would just strike out on fast pitch. There was no way. Jim said, for me and my friends, it was always a big red machine against the Phillies. The Phillies never lost. We would emulate every batter. I love it. I love it. And that's the thing. Like you always, always, always think, who can I stand like, man? Like who, and you would watch it now. Food says Rod Carew. I love it. Javon says Jim Tomey's another one. He had another great stance that you would try to emulate. 100%. 100%. Actually, I tried Gary Sheffield. There's another guy that I was trying to emulate. I was always Eric Davis and Gary Sheffield. I would go back and forth with those two guys, when I would come up the plate, try to emulate those guys' stances all the time. And then, I would get cute when I would come in and play fast pitch. I would try to pitch like Kent DeColvey. I used to have to go underarm sideways, try to get people a little crazy, thinking, where's this ball coming out from? His delivery's all off. But man, my elbow would be killing me after that, man, for like days. So I don't know how Kent DeColvey did it for so many years without blowing an elbow out. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Gary Sheffield. Yep. Would shake the Wes Covington. My man Chuckles, man. What's up, Chuck? Happy holidays, my man. Thanks for checking in. I love it. I love it. I love it. Getting in with the baseball talk. Here's a man who coached for many years. It has a lot of knowledge. I obviously a lot of respect for the guy. His son does tremendous things, and Billy, who will check in from time to time, doing great things for the football team in Frankfurt and the community, always looking out for people. Went to school with his daughter, which was great. I see her doing some fantastic things with AI. In her new home, which is pretty cool, Chrissy. So that's great. But Chuck, man, thanks for checking it. Wes Covington, check that name out. Wes Covington. That's what I'm saying. Like we all go back, man. Like it doesn't just have to be today's era. Like that's the thing. Like Adam says, all the young kids now do Bryce Harper, right? Because, and that's the thing. Like, but my thing is, like I say to my boys all the time, like, do me a favor. You're doing yourself a disservice if you don't go back and look at the history of the game. Because in order for us, when you think about it, Fuge, Adam, maybe not Javon that much. You're a little younger, so you've always had the internet. Jimmy, I know, Chuckles, you too, right? We used to have to go to the library, right? We used to pull out the encyclopedias, the newspaper clippings, right? In order to find out, anything just current. Now you have the internet, man. Like I said to my kids all the time, screw going on TikTok to watch the favorite dance and who's doing this and who's doing that. Go on there and watch some videos, man. Like, again, whether you like them or not, it is what it is, but go watch Barry Bonds swing it back. Go watch Mark McGwire back in the day. Roids or not, doesn't matter, man. Like, go back. Go watch Greg Maddux. Go watch Oral Hershiser. Go watch those early 90s Oakland Athletic teams, right? With the Carney Lansfords and the Mike Gallegos and the Dave Hendersons and the, and the Dennis Eckersleys and, the Dave Stewarts and the Terry Steinbachs, like that, go back. Cause, that's how I learned. And that's how I tell my kids all the time. Like, I learned a lot from playing video games, right? Because when we play video games, it wasn't just the current players. We were always trying to get the older players. Well, now when they play the video games, it's all about the new current players and the new AI and the boosts that they get. So they're never going back old school, right? For me, it was always old school. If anybody listening right now, remember the game Baseball Stars. If you remember the game Baseball Stars, it was for Nintendo, the original Nintendo. And it was a fantastic game, and it had one team, okay, that literally was emulating all the greatest players of all time: Willie McCovey, Babe Ruth, Joe DiMaggio. It was great, man. It was great. Oh, and their Foods nails it. This is why I love Foods. We had This Week in Baseball every Saturday with Mel Allen narrate. If people don't know what This Week in Baseball was, that was what I know for me personally. I would just literally tune in because I wanted to see who the big home runs of the week were. Like I remember watching Cecil Fielder, knocking a ball out at Detroit Stadium, watching Jesse Barfield. Yeah, there's a name for you, Jesse Barfield. Watching him bang balls, out of the stadium. Like, who was going to be that guy? Now, Adam mentions Jose Canseco, one of the Smash Brothers, right? I mean, you think about how good that Oakland A's team was. Like when you really take in consideration the prime talent they had those years in Oakland. I mean, it was second to none, man. On Tony La Russa, it was second to none. You remember the series against the San Francisco Giants, right? Where they had the earthquake. Right? Remember that? Like you go back and look at that San Francisco Giants team. Will the Thrill Clark, man. Besides the besides the kid, okay, and Ken Griffey Jr. I will say this: we a couple weeks ago we talked about Mark Grace. Left-handed hitters of the game that just made it look effortless. Will Clark was one of those guys too. Crazy dude, student of the game though, man. Like student of the game. And when you watch Will Clark play, I'm surprised he's never been a coach. I thought he would have been a coach because he had that IQ, he had that brain. He had that energy. And I'm very surprised, he wasn't a coach. And again, like, while we're in the baseball talk, throw it out there, like throw the names out there. Listen, again, you can get involved. If you're on Twitter, you're on X, you can comment. Now you can comment on X. Okay, Facebook, YouTube. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like the show. Would greatly appreciate it. If you want to join live, you can join live, just like a call to the radio. I posted a link in the YouTube chat, on Facebook, and on Twitter, even on Instagram. If you follow at Heat Ratio Sports on Instagram, it's on there as well. You just have to click on it. Click on it on your phone. Boom. It's just like a Zoom, except it's just audio. There's no video. There's no camera, no nothing. I'll put you on, talk about who your favorite memories are in Major League Baseball. Who are those players that you wanted to bring up and talk about? Food says, 1989 World Series. My man David says, I watched Chicago White Sox versus Detroit Tigers in 96 of August on YouTube. Like, think about that on YouTube. Like, you went back. And that's what I love about David. Like, David went back and watched a World Series in 19. Now, let's think about that for a minute. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, let's think about who were some players on those two squads in 96. Detroit Tigers and the Chicago White Sox. Like, I'm thinking right off the top of my head, it's got to be Black Jack McDowell, right? Jack McDowell's got to be one of those pitchers, I would think, in 96 for the Chicago White Sox, if I'm not mistaken. I have to think about who would be on the wow, man. It makes you go back. Like the Detroit Tigers in 90, is Alan Trammell. Are we talking Alan Trammell on that team? Who again, we had Mike Piazza was the Mike Trout back in the day. I don't know if he was the Mike Trout. I think that's giving him a little too much credit. I was never a huge Mike Piazza fan. I'm gonna be honest with you. I never was a huge Mike Piazza fan. Javon says most kids exactly. ESPN Classics, man. Like, that you have that was my biggest knock, right? That was my biggest knock. Like when I talk to kids nowadays, like I still coach. I coach soccer, and when I coach, I always tell the kids, man, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't go back and check out the history of the game that you love, because it makes you smarter. It makes you more intelligent. It makes you a student of the game, right? You want to go back and you want to find out the history, how it evolved, right? I think that does yourself you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't do that, right? Because I think like when we get into a layer talk later on about like Allen Iverson, AI's influence on today's current NBA product, that's why I bring it up, because going back and looking at, the Allen Iverson era, and even before that, looking at like the Stevie franchise era, the Stephon Marbury era, what these guards were able to do back then. That's the history of the NBA. I mean, I know we're talking Major League Baseball right now, but that's why. Like Javon says, you don't even know about ESPN classes. You got to go back and watch them, man. You have to go back and watch them. Adam says Wade Boggs. That's another great Wade Boggs. I mean, he was a straight up contact hitter, man. Wade Boggs hit everything. He really did. Boston Red Sox, not even worried about the Yankee Wade Boggs. It's just the Boston Wade Boggs, man. That's got to remember. There's a name. Food says Sweet Lou Whitaker. Sweet Lou, man. Lou Whitaker. I remember Lou Whitaker for the Detroit Tigers. There you go. There's a name from that 96 Detroit Tigers, man. Wow. I'm still trying to think, man. Who was on those teams? Who was on who were like I said, you say Sweet Lou Whitaker. I'm pretty sure we had Blackjack McDowell for the Chicago White Sox on that team. Trying to think who else would be on that White Sox team, man. Like that's history right there. I listen, David. Give me some names, man. Give us some names. Give us an education and let us know who some of those names are as we continue on to this conversation. Again, this is HRS Late Nights. I'm your host, Tony Cutillo. If you're joining the program, I appreciate it. Keep the comments flowing. It's wonderful. We're going to 1 a.m. tonight. Obviously, if you don't listen to the entire show, you can obviously listen to it again tomorrow. That's for damn sure. You can watch it on replay, still comment and getting those, getting the comments. And one guy I hope to get on here, man, is my man Chuck Baller. I got to get my man Chuck Baller on here because me and him, we go back and forth. He's such a passionate dude, man. I love him. I'm gonna have to give him a personal invite on the show, on the program. And I do have some, just so you know, it's just not going to be Tony talking for the entire 2 hours. My plan is I am going to be booking guests on the show. I know I have Chris Franklin going to be joining me next week. Eagles beat reporter, probably the most credible reporter I know of. Another guy's very personable for NJ.com. You'll see his name everywhere. Everybody wants a piece of Chris Franklin, and rightfully so. I got my girl Carm coming on to talk hoops with Carm. If you don't know it, trust me, Carm can spit out some basketball knowledge. I'm gonna have her on the program. I talked about the real Michael KB, who goes for 97.3 ESPN. Kai Carlin, when it comes to the 76ers. I got a lot of guests lined up, man. It's gonna be a fun show. It's gonna be a fun show, and I'm gonna be with you every night. So I'm here. If you want to listen to late night talk, this is where we're at. Frank Thomas and Robin Ventura. Yes, there you go. Now we're getting Frank Thomas and Robin. There's another left-handed sweet swinging guy in Robin Ventura that we forget about a lot. I mean, he goes down always, right? That with the Nolan Ryan dumb fight, stupid, whatever. Like of all things to be remembered for, but Robin Ventura was hell of a baseball player, man. Like, again, a hell of a baseball player. He locked down third base for a long time out there for the Chicago White Sox. And Frank Thomas, listen, he was a man amongst boys at one time, man. Like, he was what a unbelievable talent and unbelievable student of the game. Like, when I listen to him on MLB Network and I listen to him as a commentator, he blows me away, man. He is one of those guys that just he knows every intricacy of the game, and I love listening to him, and I love listening to him break it down. I really do. So that's two great names, Adam. Frank Tom. Oh, that's Adam just hit one of the best names that never gets enough credit. That's the sweet swinging Harold Baines. Harold Baines was just a mainstay for so many years, man. Harold freaking Baines, like, is another guy. Number 9, right? Switch hitting Harold Baines. Like, he just locked down the DH spot, dude. Like, Harold Baines was that prototypical DH, and he just quiet as kept. Just got it done. Just got it done. David says Mike Piazza was that dominant back in the day with the Mets. Piazza was the Mike. I don't know, man. Like I can't say what was he like. Was Mike Piazza that dominant? I don't know. I remember those Mets teams. I remember them very well, right? I mean, I'm a Philadelphia guy, so the rivalry of the Mets and the Phillies, I mean, is very well documented. I remember Mike Piazza. I do still think Mike Piazza was on roids. I don't care, but I just think that, because one of my favorite players of all time is Barry Bonds, and I don't want to get into a steroid talk tonight, but we will get into that one day. But, for me, looking at, a guy like Mike Piazza and a guy like Jeff Bagwell in the Hall of Fame, who've had a lot of interesting accusations, David Ortiz as well, about the steroid use, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But I don't know, man. Like it's hard. It's hard, to think that all these players were clean, right? And I don't even care. Like I don't. Like at the end of the day, it happened. It's over. Major League Baseball profited very heavily from the steroid era. Let's remember, rest in peace, Bud Selig. But I'll tell you what, man, Bud Selig, he did the game dirty because, and he did a lot of people dirty because guess what? Bud Selig knew that was going on. He hit it for years. He hit it. And then all of a sudden, he wants to say it's wrong when he lined his pockets and he knew that, the race for the record, that whole Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa race for the record, that brought people back to Major League Baseball at a time after a strike where they were making zero money, at a time where the audience was at an all-time low, And then he turned on the game, Bud Selig, and acted like he had no idea. So I'll get into that another day because they allowed it, and now all of a sudden I can't watch HD replays of Barry Bonds hitting home runs. I think it's ridiculous. Damian Eastley is another utility player that I don't think gets enough credit. Piazza and Roger Clemens rivalry. Yes. I mean, listen, Roger, wow. I mean, another dominant arm in the history of Major League Baseball. Whether you want to say roids, whether you want whatever, man. Like I don't care, to be honest with you. All I know is Roger Clemens, he deserved an audience. And when Roger Clemens pitched, you tuned in. Like again, it to me, it's all about the sport and it's all about entertainment. And I'm not saying entertainment as far as, I gotta have all these home runs. Listen, I'm a student of the game. I can watch a 1-0 shutout, okay, where Doc Holliday pitches a no-hitter and he strikes out 15 batters, or I can watch a 10-9 game where we have 5 or 6 home runs. I like all aspects of the game. I used to love watching Greg Maddux pitch. Watching that two-seamer cut in the batters, freeze them at the point of attack. I used to love watching Pedro pitch. I used to love watching Chris Sale before he went down that unfortunate injury history of his. He was so darn dominant, man. So Chris Sale, I'll tell you what, you want to talk about players that may have been able to break records and go down in the history books, that possibly never got the opportunity to because they couldn't stay healthy. One of those names is Chris Sale. Like I'll tell you, you say what you want, but that boy was dirty. Like the movement on his pitches and the dominance was just dirty. And he stayed dominant. He wasn't like Tim Lincecum, dominant and then nothing. This dude stayed dominant. So again, I like watching those kind of things. And Adam says, do you think anybody will ever beat Barry Bonds' home run record? Like for me, it is Barry Bonds' home run record. People are going to say it's not his home run record. People want to say it's still Hank Aaron's home run record. Whatever you want to say, I think it's a long shot. I do. I think it's a long shot because, number one, this is a great conversation because I brought this up before. The modern day game, like Bryce Harper being able to play until his into his 40s will be something that's unheard of. Okay. Like legitimately, like it'll never happen. Like Manny Machado is not going to play into his 40s, right? There's only going to be certain players that have the drive and the capacity to be able to do that. And the reason why, and I say this, right, from being a youth sports coach myself, is the way that the sport has changed on a younger level, right? If you remember, and Chuckles, if you're still listening, I know you remember Foods. I know you remember back in the day, baseball wasn't a year-long sport. Basketball wasn't a year-round sport. Football wasn't a year-round sport. Soccer wasn't a year-round sport. Like when I grew up as a young kid from Wissinoming who went to North Catholic, but I grew up, I went from one sport to the next season, to the next season. I played basketball. I went to baseball. I went to soccer. It was 3 months. I got my t-shirt, got my hat, got my stirrups, got my pants, got my jersey, whatever sport it was. I was good to go. But now these kids, especially pitchers, but if you want to just compare it to pitchers to batters, just say the amount of pitches thrown and the amount of swings that are taken from a younger age is off the charts. Because again, it doesn't stop. The cage work doesn't stop. The hitting coaches and pitching coaches do not stop. You go now, again, you go winter league, you go fall ball, you go summer league. Like you're year round on every single sport. Like right now, I just finished up second week of December. I finished up fall soccer. I give the kids off 2 weeks. Okay. I start up winter soccer, indoor soccer, first week of January. Then we have indoor cups in February. Then we have outdoor cups in March. Then we play spring league in April. That takes us to June. And then I give the kids off the month of July. And guess what? In August, first week of August, tryouts start. They get 1 month off. 1 month. So again, they overtake your life. And I'm not saying, listen, if that's what you want to do, I've watched so many kids. Shout out to my man Coach Dave Dixon, one of my best friends in the world. Have a ton of respect for him. You've seen him on this program with me right now, doing a lot of great things in the coaching realm, and with his son DJ, who's playing college ball, playing in these summer leagues, and this is what, but again, this is what he wanted to do. And, Dave didn't push him to do it. He wanted to play. And again, the opportunity is there. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. What I'm saying is that's why I don't think nobody will ever last to that echelon anymore or to that tier, right? Javon says, by the time I got into high school, a lot of sports became all year round between playing in school or travel clubs and AAU. Exactly. It never stopped. Like legitimately never stopped. And that's again, I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if it's a bad thing, but I will say this. I learned, and I've seen this a ton, and it's unfortunate. Okay. A dear friend of mine whose daughter was an absolute stud softball player. Stud. I mean, I'm telling you, when I don't use that word loosely. Okay. Absolute stud. Had offers from every Division I school you can name off. Okay, could have went to Alabama, could have went to Clemson, could have went anywhere. She got full rides, full rides. Guess what? She told my buddy, her Dad, I hate to tell you this, but I'm burnt. I don't want to play anymore. And he was devastated. Like he was literally devastated. And it got me thinking, like, wow, like, are we doing too much? And is it because we're chasing the level of competition that's consistently becoming better and better and better? Or is it because, some parents need to have their kid as being one of those top? Listen, I've seen them. I coach them, right? Some of the parents, my kid's got to be the number one. Whether the kid wants to be it or not, they're going to push their kid to be number one. And then you do have those special kids who just breathe, eat, and sleep to sports, which is nothing wrong with that. But I still think that's a small percentage. I still think that we're not always taking their best interests at heart. It's just my opinion. Just my opinion only. Allison, speaking of hitting occasions, do you see Roja? Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point. I'm going to get back to that, Adam. 1 second. Jimmy says, my girls were all, there you go. All star cheer. My daughter was in cheer too. They got 2 weeks off after nationals before tryouts for the next year's teams. That's what happens when kids sports became an industry and people's livelihoods. That's such a huge statement right there. It's so goddamn true. When kids sports became an industry, when you start having paid coaches, paid trainers, facilities, like facilities are being built for the simple fact of not enough space for these kids. Think about that. Not enough space. Are you serious? Because everybody has to get to that point. I'll tell you 2 quick stories. And this is when I knew, again, this is HRS Late Nights. I am Tony Cutillo. If you're listening to this show, this is live audio. We're treating this just like a radio program. This is my baby. This is my platform. I have a great team. I want to make this great for everybody. I love it. If you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the show, be greatly appreciated. As always, again, make sure you're listening to Blue Coats Beat on for the Delaware Blue Coats, which I am one of the hosts of. I'm having a ball doing it. We have a lot of big things playing in 2024. And again, if you want to get your comment up, throw it up on Facebook, throw it up on YouTube, throw it up on X. We'll put it up on the screen. If you want to be involved, if you want to call in live, we're here till 1 a.m. I posted the link. Click on it on your phone, and we can have a conversation just like we call them for the radio. Either way, we'll get your point across. And Jim, you make me think about so many different things. And I will say one story when I knew it was like, I was absolutely amazed that, you hear about pitch counts. And I coached softball for many years at a very competitive level. My daughter played very competitively until she got to college and she didn't want to play anymore, which was her prerogative. And listen, she needed a break. She was a catcher. She was fearless. I loved watching her play. I miss it every day. But when I was coaching, we had this girl, Rachel. I'm not going to say her last name, obviously, for privacy purposes, but she was amazing. And if you ever watch softball and watch these pitchers, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I don't know if you understand the craft and the work that they put in to throw a drop, to throw a screwball. Like the throw a screwball or a drop in softball takes so much goddamn practice. It really does. And the reason why I bring up this girl, Rachel, is because, at a U11, U12 level, an age group, she was literally hitting like 75 on the gun. And I said to myself, she's going to be in the Olympics one day. Like, this girl is going to pitch to the next level. And I never thought of thinking about how many pitches that she was throwing. And when we would go to tournaments, and if people that have daughters who play softball or know softball at a younger level, pitchers are the hardest to find, obviously, because it takes so much work to be able to pitch at a softball level, especially at travel or suburban county, or even AAU. It's tough. High school ball, it's not easy. So you essentially would have one pitcher and possibly a backup. And you would go to these tournaments and your number one pitcher would pitch 3 games. And at U11 and U12, at that point, I'm not even thinking, right? I'm just thinking, like, I'm an assistant and I'm going, you know what? No big deal. They're short games or 5 innings. Oh, one time I started documenting pitches. This girl, Rachel, guess how many pitches she threw in 3 games? You're never going to believe it because I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. I was documenting every single pitch. Now, these are 5 to 6 inning games, which no mercy rule, no nothing. You're in a tournament, so it's run differential. So you have to score runs to keep your standing and your points up. And they were pony leagues, which means you got points to be able to go to the World Series, okay, wherever it was that year for pony, which was the top one. So I started counting pitches. 282 pitches. I'm not kidding. 282 pitches because you played a minimum of 3 games, a maximum of 5 if you were able to make the championship round. So this girl threw 282 pitches at 12 years old. And it was the first time in 2 years from 10 years old that I ever documented a pitch count. And I was scared. And the first thing I did was grab my head coach and was like, bro, this is a problem. Do you realize how many pitches? And we researched it. We thought about it. I was like, we need to give this girl a break. Well, we would give her breaks. And now her dad was very adamant and he was pissed off. He wanted to know why we were giving her breaks. And we explained to him, like, look, we never realized how much she was pitching. We're going to kill this girl. Like, literally, her arm is going to fall off. Well, again, what does the dad do? He takes the girl to a different organization. And in 2 years, she rips her rotator cuff apart. She has Tommy John, and she never pitches again. And this is a true story, like legitimately a true story. And I say this because this is what's happening. There's no secret here on why there's so many early Tommy John surgeries for pitchers in Major League Baseball. It's because they're pitching way too much at a younger level. They are. It's simple. And again, it's because they have to one up that level of competition. Javon says, this combo got me thinking about IMG Academy, which has better facilities than some colleges. Exactly. I don't know what IMG Academy is. We had one called All-Star Academy. We had Bucks County Baseball Academy. So I'm assuming it's the same kind of thing. And you're right. You're right. The amount of money that these academies are making is the reason why they have better facilities, right? And I'll tell you, here's another, this will make you think, Jim, exactly, torture. And I knew this girl was in pain too. Like I legitimately felt bad. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't watch it. That's why we had to stop it. But again, we'll take the blame for it in the beginning, but it was just like, because it wasn't a theme. Like, we didn't count pitches. Nobody counted pitches. It was just something that like got into our heads. It was like, wow, like this could be a problem, right? So what the other thing is, when my daughter was hitting and I took her to a hitting coach, and just think about this. This is how the game has shifted, right? So she used to go to a guy who legitimately would have 2 pitching tunnels and 2 hitting stations in his basement. What he did was he was a college coach who transitioned into an instructor out of his own house. He had mattresses up on the wall. He did tee work. He did soft toss. He had 2 pitching stations. He would get girls, noticed by scouts, and he would charge. Ready for this one? I'm not going to tell you the numbers, but think about it, right? You guys can do the math. He would charge $20 for an hour, a session, $20. He did it 7 days a week. His first appointment was at 8 a.m. His last appointment was at 9 p.m. 11 hours a day, 7 days a week. And when I tell you that his schedule was 100% locked in full, no shit. You couldn't even, like, the only time you could breathe, like, and hope to get a different appointment is when some girls would leave to go to college. So again, like, think about that. That's where we're at. Jim says, okay, I had no idea. IMG is a private boarding school. Sports can see. That's why I love doing this too. I learned. Javon answers it. I ask the question. Jim answers it. I love it. I knew nothing about IMG. It says a lot of 5-star players transfer to IMG to play it a national elite schedule. They beat St. Joe's Prep by 3 on a neutral field this season. Interesting. See, I didn't know that. I had no idea. And again, like it's, and that's why I'm starting a youth sports podcast, because, I want to start it because I kind of want I want to tell some dark stories about the game, but I also want to get some player perspectives, right? Because I coach and I know a lot of kids that are in college playing and played semi-pro, and I want to get them on and I want to hear them talk. Like, what was it like? What did your life consist of? And was it something that you always said you wanted to do? Was there ever a time where you did get burned out? Was there ever a time to when you said, you know what, enough's enough? I mean, listen, at the end of the day, you have to think about these things. But this is a great conversation. Again, this is when you never know. Like, we literally start talking NBA Big Three, and we transitioned into Major League Baseball back in the day talk, which I love. And that's why I love this program, because we never know where it's going to go. And, you think about it, right? You think about it because these are real life experiences we're talking about, right? These are real life experiences. Jim says elite cheer tumbling coach is charged. Look, think about that. $200 an hour, and they travel regionally. It's insane. I mean, I'll tell you what, I remember my son, his soccer team was splitting up. Now, he was 12 years old. So now we're going to 13, U13, right? I'm thinking, again, it was on a competitive team. It was good. So, I take on to one of the local clubs, and we're not even going to break tonight. We're just going to go straight through to 1 a.m. No big deal. I'm drinking my coffee. I'm good. So I was looking for a home. So I go to this club, and these kids are playing, and I already got that vibe, right? You get that bad vibe, and you start thinking, and you're like, wow, maybe this isn't the place for me. Maybe I'm in the wrong spot, right? So these kids are playing. Now, I will say this, and this is no disrespect to anybody listening that has a difference of opinion, and I don't there's no judgment here on this show. Okay? I'm not a big drinker. Okay? I'm not this big gotta drink, right? Because that was another thing, like, growing up, and I was always kind of like the outcast when it came to that, because the parents would have to sneak in their wine, and parents had to sneak in all that stuff, and we would sit there and we would always talk about, why is that needed? And we go in there, and this place had a bar. So first thing, everybody's like, oh, we're gonna meet at the bar. We're meeting at the bar. So I'm like, I don't even want to leave my kid. Like, I'm gonna watch my kid try out. Like, I don't want to go to the bar. Like, that's not my thing. But they're like, oh, we're having a meeting about the tryout. So I'm like, all right, I guess I have to go. So we go in there. Long story short, they bring out these tables, and they're talking about the program. And all of a sudden, they introduce us like this semi-pro USA coach, and they start talking about the program. They're like, oh, just by the way, if your son makes the team, we're going to go to Brazil. We're going to go here, and I'm like, wait, what? Brazil? Why the hell do I want to go to Brazil? Like I came here to play for a soccer team, not to spend 10 G's to go to Brazil. Like, but again, that's where it was at. That's, I was like, I'm out. Like this is not what I want. But again, like Jim said, it's a lifestyle. Dude, that's a lifestyle. That's a lifestyle. Diffy, my man Duff. What's up, Duff? Duff checking in. Duff knows his son plays ball. His son plays baseball. He's doing the travel thing now, right? He's doing it all. He's going to different tournaments, different cities, different states. But I mean, Jesus Christ, man. Like, you think about it, it's like, when does it ever friggin' stop? When does it ever friggin' stop? Let's do this. Because Adam says they definitely picked Kimbrel too much. It burned him out. I think Kimbrel was burnt anyway. But let's stick on to the baseball talk. 100%, because I really think we have something going here. We could talk AI another night. We could talk WWE another tomorrow night. Like I said, I'm going to do this every night. This is my time to do it. So this is what I want to do. Javon says, if y'all haven't watched BS High, well done. Oh, that's right. I wanted to watch the Bishop Sycamore one, how those kids got done dirty. That's a great point. You know what? Somebody else told me about that. And I definitely wanted to watch that. So again, if anybody listening, throw it up there again. This is unfortunately, this is the dark side of the youth sports, right? I mean, I've always said that too. What if you're not in the so-called like in crowd in high school when it comes to the sports team, right? You're forgotten about, man. Like I've seen it. Like I've indirectly been on the in crowd, and the only reason why was because one of my kids played for one of the coaches' teams on a different club. So when he went there, he knew him. So it was just like just knowing him, and that's I will say this, it brings up a good point. And again, these are going to be the kind of topics I talk about on the youth sports show, the youth sports podcast. I'm going to be starting up in January, but I still say, I'll continue to say that coaches that coach in travel programs in the same county as a high school should not be allowed to coach, because they're biased and they already have their opinions built on the specific players that they're already coaching on the outside, which gives the players that don't play on those clubs a disservice when they're trying out. I'll give you an example. Okay. I'm gonna call Coach Tony, right? This is Coach Tony's team. Coach Tony coaches high school softball, just say. And I also coach for an organization in my township. So say 4 girls on my township team are now in the tryouts for the high school senior team, for the varsity team. And, obviously you have 15 girls, whatever, right? So I had this one girl, just, player A, right? Player A is a stud for me on the outside, right? She hits every ball. She makes every play. She plays a hot corner, great arm, that never skips a beat. Great teammate, great leader, everything. I already know she's stud. Comes in, tryouts, stinks. Doesn't hit a ball, hits a bunch of pop-ups, fumbles a bunch of calls a third. What's the first thing Coach Tony's going to say about player A? Man, she must be having a bad day. I know her better than that. And this kid's a stud, so she's going to get a pass, right? Now you have player B, who doesn't play for the township team. And player B, I know nothing about. Player B comes in, does the same thing. And I go, wow, this kid, she don't have it. She has no idea. Well, what if player B was having a bad day? What if player B played for another township that I didn't know about and was a stud? Great leader, great team, but maybe she had a family issue that day. Maybe she got a bad grade in school. Listen, I've coached girls. I have a daughter who's 23 years old. They're very volatile, man. Like again, it is a very slippery slope when you coach girls. Very emotional, man. It's simple. It's not, it's honest to God. They're very emotional, right? So what if they had a bad emotional day? Guess what? That girl gets screwed, man. She gets screwed. She could be the better player. And all because we choose to have a coach that coaches in the same township. I disagree with it. It should be somebody who has no allegiance to any of the players. The only fair way to do it, in my opinion. That's it. And that's me for being a coach. My man Food says, my daughter, here you go. He knows about volleyball, 9 years, all over tournaments, Vegas, Orlando, etc. Bro, it is another job you need to work just to pay for these trips. I mean, I used to call them, it's funny, it was $1,000 weekends. Everybody's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, bro, I spend at least $1,000 every weekend. My buddy's like, what are you, insane? I'm like, I can't help it. Like, I'm going to tournaments every weekend. I got a hotel stays. I got food bills. I got gas. I got, like, everything adds up, dude. Like, I went to Disney for soccer and made it into a vacation. It cost me 10 G's. Like, set me back 10 grand. Like, and my kid was just playing soccer. Like, and I think about it now, I'm like, it's insane. Like, it's starting to become ridiculous. Like, it is. Like, because not everybody can handle that. And then what happens if you can't? Because here's the thing, like the fundraising stuff, it's got monotonous, right? It's gotten to the point where, number one, people are busy, right? People don't have the time. And then guess what? There's people out there that would love to be a part of the fundraiser, but let's be honest, not everybody's making it great today, right? So maybe they don't have money for the block pools. Maybe they don't have money to buy the candy bars, or so who's funneling all this stuff, right? Who's funneling it all? Like, and that's what I say all the time, man. Like, I think there's going to have to come a breaking point where we have to step back and just say, okay, these are great experiences. And I'll be honest with you. Like, my kids play travel sports their entire lives, and, at a very competitive level. And I have a ton of memories. I have a ton of memories that I would never give. Like, I would never give back ever. I have no regrets, but it was like, again, like, it was a lot, man. Like Jim says, there were years we went to Disney 3 times a year, 3 times a year. And that's a great point. Disney built a stadium for cheer and gymnastics. Think about that. And like, and that's the thing. Like, this is become more than about the kids. This is big business. This is big business, right? Like, remember something, like these airlines, these hotels, what do you think they don't know? Like, I went to a tournament in Disney and the airfare was triple the price when I went. The following weekend, it was triple the price lower, right? Why is that? Because they knew everybody had to fly. Like, you're getting gouged all over the place, and it's a shame. Because again, what do you do? Say no? And then, like I said, it's Disney. What if you don't have the money to go? Like, like, you're putting people in such a bind, man. And I get it. Like, I understand people say, well, that's what you sign up for. Listen, I understand that, right? I do. And I do get that, over the years, all the coaches, whether it be myself or coaches that my kids play for, were very upfront. They were very, very, very upfront in the beginning and say, hey, just so you guys know, we're going to be going here. We're going to be doing this. And so you kind of got like a heads up, but to just drop something like, hey, by the way, in a couple weeks, we're going to Maryland. Oh, by the way, we're going here. We're going here. Like, people don't have that kind of money anymore. I mean, some people do, but I'm not saying, but we have to think about that. And guess what? Even if you have the money, do you want to spend it like that? I don't know. I don't know if I do. I mean, I like to treat it, pretty respectfully. It's just tough, man. Adam says my cousin's playing ice hockey. Wow, that's another one. Especially if he's a goalie. The hockey equipment is through the roof, man. Through the roof. It's insane. And you know what? Here's one for Jimmy. Jim, you know how you talked about they built a stadium for cheer and gymnastics. There's a guy you can anybody on this program can Google him. His name's Jeff Kite. So Jeff Kite does all the scheduling. I think he still does it. I know he did it when my daughter played. Does all the scheduling for travel softball. All of it in the Pennsylvania region. That job, okay, turned into a full-time job, to where this guy quit his day job, quit everything he was doing, and literally just made softball schedules for travel tournaments and was making easy 6 figures a year. Think about that. And you know why? You know how much it costs to enter a travel tournament? $1,300-$1,400 per team. 1,500, some 2,000, some 2,500. So think about that. If my team wants to play in 3 tournaments, it's damn near $6,000 to $7,000 just to play in those tournaments. If the tournament fee is $2,000, just as on average, and there's 10 teams, it's $20,000, right? And that's not including, the money that you're going to make on concessions, that's not including the money you're going to make on merch. And the only thing you're going to pay out is the umpire fees, right? That's it. So it's a business. Make no mistake about it. It's a business, right? It's absolutely a business, and again, like Jim says, Disney puts packages that include, that you can't use during a competition. So you either waste the money spent on park tickets or you extend your trip, miss more school, and spend more money. See, ain't that the worst? Like, it's bad enough they gouge it, but they can't even make it convenient gouging, right? They can't even make it convenient gouging. And that's what pisses me off. And they all do that. And it's like, we all listen, we all want the same thing here. We want to go watch our kid play. We want to make memories. We want to spend time with the family. But man, damn, I don't want to go broke because of it. Like, and they do this purposely, man. He's like, and then they charge the parents to watch the kids perform. That's what's crazy. The admission fees to watch your own kid. I'm so glad you brought that up. Like, what the hell is that? Like, why? Like, I just paid for his side, and now you're going to gouge me for like $10 to go watch the. Like, I get it. It's $10. It's just the principle, man. Like, seriously. Like, and then think about this. Like, think about if it's not the only child. Like, I have 3 children. They all went. My wife went. My mother-in-law went. Like, it's not cheap. Right? It's not cheap, man. It's not cheap to eat. It's not cheap to stay. It's not cheap to go to the park. It's not cheap to do anything. Like, it's just everything is just maximized to the fullest extent anymore. And it's a shame. It really is. It's a shame. Again, this is HRS Late Nights. I am Tony Cutillo. Make sure you give us a follow at Heat Ratio Sports. We're live every night. I'm live from 11 p.m. Eastern to 1 a.m. Eastern. Late night sports, late night talks. Tonight we went around the Major League Baseball area. We talked about NBA Big Three. We talked some youth sports, but let's transition. Let's stay on baseball as we close this out. Let's talk about the Phillies closer situation. We'll talk a little WWE tomorrow night. Philly, like, I got this conversation on Twitter today about Josh Hader. And Josh Hader wants 5 years and $120 million or something like that. And my point to a couple people, and I'm curious, Fuge, if you're still listening, Jim, Javon, Adam, I know you guys, if you're still there, you're baseball guys. But I said, listen, I'll be honest with you. I don't think I'm going, 4 or 5 years, 20 million per for a closer. I don't think it's, number one, I don't think it's feasible in today's game. I don't think it's feasible in the way they utilize the closer, right now, especially Rob Thompson, the way to utilize the bullpen. I don't think it's just, to me, it's, I don't think with the uncertainty of a closer, meaning, are they year to year? Are they consistent? Right? Because let's face it, year to year, it's a very volatile situation. Very, very volatile. And, you can watch guys that go off the charts. Then you can watch guys really just shit the bed. And if you're going to hamstring yourself, right, at that $20 million, 20, 22, $23 million, I tell you, man, that's a lot of goddamn money at the back end of your bullpen where you already have a lot of guys, right? Where you already have a lot of guys. So I look at it, I'd rather them put money into other areas. I really would. I just don't see. Jim says, I agree. I don't want to pay Hader either. That's my Alvarado is a lefty. We don't want our top 2 leverage. Exactly. We don't want our top 2 high leverage relief pitchers to be lefties. 100% agree. 100% agree. Like, if you're going to make Alvarado the closer, make him the closer, right? Whether he could do it or not, I don't know, right? I don't know, but that is 100%. And I'm glad you guys agree. Like Javon, that money can be used elsewhere, whether it's on another bat or very important extension for Zach Wheeler. right? Extension for Zach Wheeler, because Zach Wheeler is very underpaid. And again, it always happens, right? It always happens. But we got him at, at a fair price, in my opinion, because of his, you know, his injury history. So because of that, the contract right now looks like it's a bargain. And he's a top 5 player in baseball. The top 5 player in baseball. Now, Jim brings up a good name, Jordan Hicks, flame throwing righty that you can probably get for about 330. So see, I'm more in that range, man. Like, I'll go Hicks at 330. I'll go because when you look around Major League Baseball, except for Edwin Diaz, who I can't honestly, I know I'm not supposed to say this because I'm a Phillies fan and he's a Met, but I can't wait for him to come back. And I hope he's just as dominant. I love watching him close and I loved his entrance. I thought it was fantastic. But, how many lockdown closers like steady do you have in the game now? Like, honestly, like, it's always like recycled pitchers or retreads, right? It always is. And the way, you utilize your strengths, sometimes your closer is the 8th inning guy, sometimes he's the 7th inning guy. The game is changing. And because it's changing, I don't see the attraction in trying to get a guy to really bank down your pockets that technically may not even be your closer day to day. Extension for Wheeler, I think is huge. Obviously, you're going to eventually rework Bryce's deal and give him more money. That's coming. Javon says Hicks is a good one. Can you listen to that? Like Javon makes a great point. That's why I like talking about this, because it gets me excited for the Phillies this year. Because again, February's right around the road, right? Pitchers and catchers, it's coming up. He says Hicks is a good one. Can you imagine Hicks, Alvarado, Kerkering, who I still think is a stud, Strom, who I think is very, very good. Again, gave us some very, very solid innings when we needed it as a veteran guy out of the bullpen, did whatever we needed. And Dominguez, if Sir Anthony can just be consistent this year. Like, again, last year was an up and down year for Sir Anthony. Again, came back from some pretty big injuries. Sometimes the mental part of the game gets the best of us. I say it all the time. It's not always the physical elements of the game. Sometimes it is, again, it's the mental attributes that, when you say, man, this isn't working. And luckily you do have one of the best, if not the best catcher in the game in JT Realmuto as a game manager to know his pitchers, right? Know when they need to change, know what's not working. Adam says Sir Anthony as a closer. I mean, listen, for all intents and purposes, I think that, you could have Alvarado and Dominguez, just share that role. I do. Depending on, what the strength is of the lineups. And you see that's the way it's going to be managed with Rob Thompson, right? You saw it. Like, if that 3-4-5 hitter's coming up in the 7th inning, he's probably going to go Alvarado in the 7th, in like a 2-1 game. Vice versa, if it's 3-4-5 in the bottom of the 9th or the top of the 9th, whether they're home or away, maybe he goes Alvarado then. So I uses Strom in the 7th, Dominguez in the 8th. Listen, Kerkering's going to have a really solid role. I could tell you this. I look at Kerkering as, the Tyrese Maxey factor, right? He's a young kid who has a tremendous story, works his ass off, and's never satisfied. Blue collar kid, just like Bryce, but didn't come out with the accolades of a Bryce Harper, right? Works for everything. And he wasn't satisfied. He knows he needs to work. And I guarantee you that's all he's been doing this offseason. And he's going to come in, reinvent it. And he's going to come in with a newfound energy and a new focus. And he's going to be a dominant arm out of that bullpen. He is. And you're going to have Kerkering. You're going to have Alvarado. You're going to have the veteran Strom, who's going to play that that crafty role, come in like a Scott Air did for us, right? You think about it. And then you have Dominguez and Hicks, if we can get Hicks. I mean, that's a tremendous bullpen. And then you're going to get a guy or two coming up from the minors, at one point or the other. That's probably going to be a lightning hour. You still have Hoffman, I think. I think you tendered him, who played a great long rotation role. And was probably one of our saviors in that bullpen, right? So Adam says, do you think we get another starter? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. I don't want Blake Snell. I don't want any of those guys. I think that, I think Nola, the contract on Nola, wait on him a little bit, made him inconsistent, in the beginning of the year. And I think he really mellowed out. Am I ecstatic over Aaron Nola's deal? No. Because I feel like he's just who he is. I don't think he'll be, any better than Aaron Nola is, but I don't think he'll be any worse. And in Major League Baseball, if you could have a top two and potentially if Ranger Suarez continues to just be a dominant lefty, you have a top three rotation, that's, I'll tell you what, it's pretty intimidating. And then you have the young guys, who's going to step up. I think you saw the Tyler Walker, Taiwan Walker experiment probably over with some of his comments and posts and the vocalness of him not being happy and being left off rotations. And, I still think, that's something that, we won't see anymore. Jim says, wow, that's huge. That's huge. I mean, that would be the name right there, Dylan Cease from the Chicago White Sox. Jim says, I would seriously consider trading for Dylan Cease if he would sign an extension similar to what Glasnow did with the Dodgers. I 100%. I sign off on that. Absolutely. Dylan Cease is a stud. I mean, you think about a rotation. You think about a rotation of Wheeler, Nola, Cease, Suarez, and then, you have a young guy to be in that fifth spot when you need it. Man, that's pretty dirty. That's pretty dirty. And that's the thing. Like, the funny thing is, like, what is every, we talk about, we haven't even talked really about hitting. And that's what's so exciting. And like Javon's just saying, McAble or Griff McGarry could make a possible appearance. I think 100%, Abel or Abel. I call him Abel. I know it's Abel, Mick Abel, I think it is, but I think Mick makes an appearance. I do. I think that, he comes out in spring training, catches a little energy, catches some eyes, and knowing, that the Phillies like to, are getting to the point where they have Wheeler, who I thought they rested very well within the season, by pitch count, by, skipping starts every now and then. I think that showed and that proved, because again, let's remember something. It's not easy to do what the Phillies have been doing, getting into the playoff as wild cards, playing in that 3-game series, playing in another series. Like, you're taxing these arms of these pitchers that, eventually it's going to catch up. It catches up to everybody, right? So, to have young arms like an Abel and a McGarry, have those guys step up and take some of that onus off of these top guys could really be the difference this year of, are we going to stay competitive or are we not? It's simple as that. What about Rojas? Adam brought up a good point about Rojas being in the bat. It looks jacked, being in the batting cage already, working out. Do you trust Rojas, to be able to make contact on the ball? See, here's my thing. My thing is, I still think center field is a position of need. And I love Brandon Marsh. I think what, Kevin Long has been able to do with Brandon Marsh offensively has been nothing short of genius. Okay. He's turned a 220 hitter into a 280, 285 hitter with power to center field at that. Right. So I like that aspect. The only problem I have, and I've said this very well documented with Brandon Marsh in center field is I think even though he's a good athletic player, I think he takes a lot of bad angles. And because he takes bad angles in center field, they are the ones that you see. As a left fielder, you don't really see those bad angles, but as a center fielder, you see them. And, they're very clear. So I still think, with another year of getting older in Kyle Schwarber, and it's no mistake that he's got two pretty bad knees. So you automatically assume the role of him being a DH. You keep Bryce at first, which is obviously why Reese is no longer here. You have Casty in right, and then you put Brandon Marsh in left, and you need the center field. You can't hope that Rojas has it. If he has it, that's great. Then again, he's not costing you a lot of money, right? He's on a rookie scale deal, and you can keep him on the bench. But they need, in my opinion, their number one priority is a center fielder that can play and it can hit. Right? I don't need a guy to hit for power all the time, but I need somebody that's going to be able to lay down that bunt, make contact, a guy that I know and feel comfortable with making those plays in the outfield and swinging the bat. That's what I need. So I would say, I don't know who's out there. I haven't looked at it, but all I know is I think center fielder is 100%, a need, as a priority for this Philadelphia Phillies team. Well, as we come up, we had about 3 minutes left. Another fantastic show for HRS Late Nights. We went around everywhere tonight, man. Like, I love it. We talked Montreal Expos, we talked 90s baseball. We brought up the Earthquake series. We talked about the big three of the NBA, past and present. Now we're talking Phillies, which is great. Jim says, I trust Rojas to get first shot if he could show improvement. This is a good point now. If he could show improvement similar to Stott's improvement last season, then it's his job. They use the first 2 months of the season to assess him and make a trade deadline deal. Available center field market right now is pretty weak. That's a great point. And that's why I love the comments. And I love Jim's expertise and his intelligence when it comes to the game of baseball and the Phillies. Me and Jim, it's still available, buddy. Like, I would very much love your expertise, on a consistent level, on the HRS squad. So if you're ever, down to talk any kind of baseball and you want to do something, man, I'll help out whatever I could do to get it going for you. And I'd love to have you as part of the team. And if not, this is great too, man. This is great too. You bring a lot of value to all these shows, and I greatly appreciate it. Because again, you make a great point looking at what are the first 2 months of the season, right? That's the time you do evaluate. So it's wow. Jim says, let's talk. I'm a free agent work wide for the first time in 25 years, work wise. I love that, man. That is awesome. That is awesome. Yes, I love it. Yeah, Jim, we'll definitely talk, man. 100%. Because like I said, I got a lot of iron. What do they call it? A lot of irons in the oven, so to speak, for 2024. I'm going all in this year. With a lot of big things. So, and I'm very confident in the ability for them to stick. So yeah, let's definitely talk, man. 100%. Adam says we need to get rid of Jay Cave. He can't do it. Listen, here's the thing. Jay Cave is who he is, Adam. So what we do in Philadelphia is we get enamored by the bench guys that come in and have a couple of games, and all of a sudden, the team gets enamored with them and they keep playing on more and more and more, and then we focus on these guys, right? Like all of a sudden, everybody's going to be the next Rico Bronya. Like Jay Cave should just be doing what Jay Cave does: fill in for injured players, play every now and then, and pitch hit. That's it. That's all you need from Jay Cave. But again, when you start playing him like every third or fourth day, he gets exposed, and then he doesn't become a great player. Yes. Jock Peterson. I hope that talks for real too, Jim. Like, we heard that, we saw that a couple times. I always say where there's smoke, there's fire. But he would be he would be a 100% awesome J.K. replacement. I sign off on the Jock Peterson play as well. He gives you a little tenacity, gives you a little attitude, it gives you a little pop, gives you that exposure. You know what I mean? He gives you that experience, that leadership on the best. Like, he's just an attention grabber to me, and I like that. He's an attitude guy. I like that. When we had J-Roll on his team, he had the attitude. Right now, we have Bryce on his team who has the attitude. Like, we need attitude. I always say that we need attitude. It's one thing that we absolutely need. We need attitude. So yeah, I listen. If we can latch on to a guy like Jock Peterson, that would be fantastic. But listen, we're gonna close this show out tonight. Shout out to everybody that joined in. My man Jim, Adam, Javon, my man Fuge, Chuckles checking in. My man David checking in, as always, giving us that Major League Baseball talk. And look, listen, I had some AI talk tonight planned, some WWE talk, but we got, and that's what we're going to do in this program. If we're going to continue on a really good conversation, we're just going to continue. Because guess what? I'm here every single night during the week, Monday through Friday from 11 to 1. Okay, from 11 to 1. Maybe every now I'll give myself a Friday off. So we'll see. If the wife wants me to be off on a Friday, then I'm going to give myself off on a Friday. How's that? But for the most part, Monday to Friday, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., you catch it right here. HRS Late Nights with myself, Tony Cutillo, with some guests. Next week, I will have Chris Franklin on from NJ.com, talking some Eagles, talking some Birds, get his insight into what the hell is going on. Hopefully, we're talking about a win. The great Michael KB, who does work for 97.3 for the Sixers, the great guy, Kai Carlin. I want to get on doing some work for the Sixers as well. When it comes to USA Today magazine, does a fantastic job as a beat reporter. And then we'll talk some hoops with Carm. Get my girl Carm on, who does a fantastic YouTube series called Hoops with Carm. She really knows her stuff, man, and I can't wait to get her on. And that's just the beginning. Like I said, that's just the beginning. A lot of good players. Got a lot of good people. Wait, what do we got? Chris Jericho should have been part of the golden era. Say Chris Jericho. See, that's the wrestling talk. So we'll talk about that tomorrow night. We're going to talk about that tomorrow night because I want to get into tomorrow night. I definitely want to get into some AI talk. I want to talk some AI influence now and in the past. And I really want to get into some WWE talk and some AEW talk. Is Samoa Joe, is he, ready? Is he ready to take over for MJF? What are we expecting at the Royal Rumble? Who's the next champ? Or, are we going to have the Viper with another title run? How long will that be? Are they setting up Roman Reigns to break Hulk Hogan's record of consecutive title defenses to take them past SummerSlam 2024. There's so many different things in the world of wrestling. I love wrestling. I will get I'm trying to get the Blue Meanie on. He's always a good talk. Try to get some other wrestlers on as well, late nights. And it could be a time where I do an off camera interview and then just play for you guys on an interview series too. So a lot of different things. Adam, as always, appreciate it. Great show, Tony. Hearing you talk sports, love hearing it. I say this all the time. I 100% would be nowhere where I'm at to this point without any of you guys and girls for that matter. Just tremendous support over the years that just keeps coming, and I absolutely love it. Again, the best way you can support me is just subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the show, continue to comment, go follow at Heat Ratio Sports on all social formats if you're on socials. And if you're not on socials, that's fine. Not a big deal. Again, I'm going to have an email bag set up pretty soon. There's a lot of this is going to be an evolving format, right? Listen, I was supposed to take like 4 breaks tonight. We didn't take one. I take one single break tonight. How crazy is that? That's because we had a great topic of conversation going. So, again, this is Friday now. So I should be back tonight, unless the wife tells me that I need to take a night off. And if I don't come back tonight, I will be back Monday, New Year's, bringing in the new year. with a live show. And if not, maybe I go to the second. We'll see. We'll see what it brings, right? But if I don't talk to anybody before then, everybody have a tremendous new year. Happy 2024. I wish nothing but the best when it comes to health and happiness for every single one of you and your family. That's from me to you. And I don't know how to say it any better. So, everybody, I'm signing off. Late Nights with HRS with Tony Cutillo. Thanks you once again. Until next time.